Randy, we've got a problem.
What?
They go.
Reality's here. He's trying to crash the party. Reality? Who let him in?
You're sad that people are mean? Well, I'm sorry. The world isn't one big liberal arts college campus.
I don't have an agenda like I want people to do something. I need them to do something. I want them to avoid irrationality.
I guess what interests me is just like what interests everybody else. It's just sort of what feels real.
That was totally wicked!
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another edition of Real News. It is June 25th, about 9:02 in the morning, at least as far as my clock tells me. What feels real, everybody? What feels real to you? My name is Mr. Henry David Sean Thompson, sitting over there beside me. We're back. We're back, buddy. We're back at it. We had to take the last 2 days off, by the way. That came at a very inopportune time for us even being able to let y'all know they would take the last couple days off, but organization that we work for, David and myself, had our sort of statewide planning going on, letting everyone trying to figure out what's the future look like, what we're doing over the summertime, what the strategy is, what the plan. We're going to be speaking a little bit about that today. Stuff you all can get involved in. Some really cool opportunities we have coming up. A little bit of recap the state legislature as well, but that's where David and I were. Unfortunately, we were unable to get the message out here on Facebook. Well, because Facebook is Facebook. Let's leave it at that. Hey, David, Sean Thompson, buddy. How you doing this morning, man?
I'm excellent.
Yeah.
I feel so good. I feel like I know the future now. You said we talked about the future. I feel like I know the future. So that's what we did over the past 2 days. We figured out the future. Pretty hard stuff. That's why it took 2 days. I mean,
That's what I'm talking about.
the future don't come easy. Tell you that right now. The future don't come. But good morning to everybody. Hopefully, even though we are being throttled by the man, I hope those of you who are here are having a great time. And that's only on Facebook, though. Feel free to join us on YouTube, Mixer, Twitch. And also, I posted on the Real News Facebook page some new links to some other social media platforms. That Real News is on. And by other, I mean outside of the Silicon Valley control system.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by
Anyway,
other. There are other terms. Some people call them free speech platforms. I don't think that's the best. I mean, theoretically, every platform you can stand on in America should be a free speech platform. But these are outside of the control system. And I would recommend that you find Real News on those and start getting notifications from them. I would, if I were you. Parler being the one. Everyone's really excited about Parler right now.
Yeah.
It's so hot right now. It's so hot. But good morning, everybody.
Parler's so hot right now.
It's so hot right now. Parler. It's actually parlay, by the way. I've been saying it wrong the whole time. I just don't.
Really?
I just don't like the French. So, not as a people, as an institution.
Yeah. It's awesome.
In fact, one of my best friends is French, and he's from Paris, and he's a super cool guy, and he's evolved for life. Played tennis at the University of Tennessee. But anyway, it's parlay, but I just say parlor because, America.
Yeah, by the way, greatest audience in the nation appreciation segment. Let us know how you're doing. If you've been recently banned from Facebook and or throttled by the man, as it said, what's up on your end of the life? What do you need prayer, concern for, everything else? We actually heard some the other day from some of our close Real News folks out here, some family members passing away. We're keeping those, everybody's in their prayer and making sure everybody's taken care of. And you know who you are if you're listening. If you need anything for sure, taken care of, reach out to this community. If you need a meal made, if you need anything, man, something hot delivered on your front doorstep, let somebody know. I guarantee we got some decent chefs in the crowd here, right? We'll hook it up. Hey, let's move on to these local stories, though. One of the things we talked about yesterday is the top headline of the show today: no Nashville property tax increase. All right, now let's pause real quick here. Sean can help back me up on this. Okay, so it sounds like it's a Nashville story. It is on its face, but I promise you could potentially become something much more than that. And Sean, I'm putting you on the spot here a little bit yesterday, but what was the question that James asked you? Something to the effect of, is Knoxville a metro government? Is that right?
He goes, yeah, Knoxville is a metro government, right? I was like, no. Every time that snake crawls out of the ground, we stomp on it, burn it, and salt the earth of where it came from.
But
So that was my answer. I don't know if that was what you were looking for. But
no, that's exactly what I was looking for.
Okay, good.
And I don't want to even start this conversation about being too bombastic here, but at the same time, I am just casually suggesting here, okay, a movement like this, if something is not done to establish strong, concrete ground, that no, we will not acquiesce. We will not move in this direction. We will not move in the direction of more taxation, more government. It's not a revenue problem that we have in Nashville. It's a spending problem. Okay, we've had an incredible increase in property tax just from the number of individuals that have been moving into Nashville over the last couple of years. It is not a revenue problem. We've had a massive revenue increase. forgoodgovernment.com. You'll see that link to the show notes. By the way, quick plug, Evernote up there at the top of the show notes. The Evernote link, the couple, first thing down almost, you'll see forgoodgovernment.com. And this is AFP is picking it up. Here is the big sort of announcement for today. It's a referendum issue. We're trying to put this on the ballot towards the December timeframe. We need we're shooting for 20, 30,000 signatures here, y'all. You need 10% of the vote total to get this issue on the ballot, to make it a choice for the people again, and essentially take this power out of the hand of the Metro Council, put it back in the hand of the people directly. Now, we do know just a little while ago, a 34% property tax increase was just passed here in Nashville. I'm telling y'all, if there ever was a time to come together to bring my libertarian brothers back in here, bring my Democrat brothers back in here, let's stop focusing on this national trash that is just dividing all of us. Let's get reunified on an issue like this that we all agree upon. Referendum time, putting this issue back on the ballot. All right. So about 10% is what we need. And they're calculating, or at least predicting rather, that they're talking about, 43,000, 45,000. So we need about 43 to 4,500 votes on the low end. But anybody that's done the referendum stuff knows how this goes. At a minimum, you usually need to double that. So at a minimum, we're talking 7,000 to 8,000 that we actually need here. But we're shooting well past that primarily because this thing in particular does stuff way better. It's the Nashville Taxpayer Protection Act. It does way more stuff than just talking about a property tax increase, all right? We're limiting property tax increases every single year to no more than 2%. Property tax increase, property tax rates shall not increase more than 2% per year after January 1st, 2020. Yes, January 1st, 2020, that has passed. It seems retroactive. It's not, because it doesn't actually go into effect until January of next year. Slightly convoluted issue. Don't have time to worry about getting into it right now. Secondarily, here in Nashville, no giveaway of our parks, greenways, or public lands. This is a little bit to do, if not primarily to do, with the fairground stuff that's going on right now. I'm not as up to speed on this as I should be, but I'm pretty sure what's going on with this is a soccer stadium coming in, fairgrounds being used. People don't like it, having to use taxpayer dollars to get the soccer team in here. I don't want to use my taxpayer dollars to go see a soccer team. I'm speaking in the proverbial sense. You're saying I'm not going to go see a soccer game. It is what it is. Mr. Henry might go see a soccer game, but I'm not going to use your taxpayer dollars to do it. Issuance of bonds, it also takes care of. All bonds issued or guaranteed after January 1st, 2020, exceeding $15 million for a specific project, excluding construction of educational classroom, public libraries, public health buildings, and police and fire stations, and charter protected facilities, must be approved by voter referendum. Let me say that again without all the nonsense in the middle. All bonds issued or guaranteed after January 1st, 2020, exceeding $15 million for a specific project, must be approved by voter referendum. I'm telling y'all, dude, that's why they're calling this the Nashville Taxpayer Protection Act. This stuff is chock full of just goodness, man. Classroom, juicy goodness. Now it goes on to talk about some more failed promises, open records as well, asking for more transparency for the way that our money is already being spent. And I'm telling you, now is a better time than ever to start looking at how are you spending our money. So I just want to make that announcement for the very first time. David and I are putting together an incredible package of stuff to do online, stuff to do on the ground. We're going to be door knocking. We're going to be making phone calls. We're going to be sending texts, man. We're going to be trying to gather as many signatures as possible. We're going to be working with coalition partners on the left, on the right. We're going to be pulling people from Knoxville to come help us in Nashville. We got a massive game plan that we're rolling out over the next week or so here. I just want to make people slightly aware of that ahead of time today. And ask this real quick as we move into some other local stories. forgoodgovernment.com, the number 4goodgovernment.com. If you go to there, what we would basically need right now is if y'all know anybody in Davidson County, i.e. Nashville, but yes, all of Davidson County, if you know anybody in Davidson County Send them this website. What you can do there is you can download either one pager or a front and back pager. The one pager lets you get about 7 signatures. The front and back lets you get about 12, I think, signatures. Don't quote me on that, but it's something like that. But we need people in this area, in the Nashville metro area in particular, to get signatures from them and their friends and families. Send it back to, it's already like it's got the address in there, everything. Just fold it over real nice and neat, put it in your mailbox, goes straight to the P.O. box. We need as many signatures as possible. That's the push that we're making going forward. Sean, anything you want to add to that before I jump to the next story here?
I just hope that everyone folds it Knight and niece. I really hope that's how. I really hope. I mean, just to emphasize probably the most important point that Grant made. I just hope they folded Knight and niece. But no, but this is for real. This is for real. We did have our city government here in Knoxville and our county government say no property tax increase. But those are words until it's true, right? Even if we like the people, even if we don't like the people, doesn't matter. Those are words until it's true. And Tennesseans have a principled stance about what's happening in our capital, where good things and bad things leak out of that capital and go to other municipalities and counties and things like that. I'm not saying everything in Nashville gets implemented all over the place, but look how many times we've had to stamp down metro government. Why would we even need such a thing here? If they can get away with a 34% property tax increase with no resistance, I'm not saying that they're going to get away with something possibly, but if they get it with no resistance, what stops them from raising it again and again? And not necessarily because they're like evil, twiddling their mustache, people like, no, but like you got to give people feedback about bad ideas. You have to do it. Otherwise, they will continue. And that happens with governments or your friends or your family or anybody. You got to give people feedback. And the feedback we're going to give them is we don't want that. And we don't want it anywhere else either. So don't bring it here. But anyway, what's the website again, Grant? Say it a couple more times.
4goodgovernment.com. It's the number 4goodgovernment.com. You can go there and actually download a printable PDF of the front version or a printable PDF of the front and back version. Sign it yourself and send it in. Sign it with you and just the people in your family and in your household and send it in, or print off a bunch of them and walk around your neighborhood, man. This is another one of the ways that we're really trying to get people involved is make actual, I don't know, whatever you want to call them, doesn't matter. But we're trying to supercharge people where they're at. Get them to take the initiative themselves. If you believe in this cause as much as we do, man, download 50 pages of this thing, walk around your neighborhood, get everybody in your suburb to sign this thing. I'm telling you. I'm telling you, man. If we can, here's what we were talking about yesterday. We need about 7,000 to 8,000 signatures just to be safe, to be sure. If we can get 20 to 30,000, I'm telling you, we will put a stamp on stuff in the metro area that could possibly live further than just this property tax increase. Can make a statement that's much, much larger than just this property tax increase. I mean, we're talking foundational stuff for limited government, limited spending that goes well beyond this, right? Hey, one other local story I wanted to get to before we start touching some national stuff.
Hey, real quick, Grant, let me get something from the chat. Daniel from the chat, Daniel Snowden, asked, is this a call to arms to overthrow the government? No, it is not that. Just throwing that out there in case you're following along in the chat. This is just something to like put limits on government so they can't take all your money. Because I bet you like having money. I know I do.
That's right.
You can't buy beer with dreams. You know what I'm saying?
That's the truth. And in a very, very general sense, the basic pitch is, I don't know, man, let's cut wasteful sending and spending and stuff we just don't need to be spending money on. Let's cut that first before we start talking about raising property taxes yet one more time. Callie said there wasn't resistance because they won't let the public into the darn meetings. Well, yeah, it's a good point. I hear what you're saying. I think she's speaking more about Knoxville, but also slightly pertains to Nashville as well. Some of these meetings go on for, I mean, literally all night long. Hey, speaking of one of the themes for the show today, because we're going to see this next story roll directly into a national story as well. Quick aside, there's some coronavirus numbers updates in here in Tennessee. I'm probably not going to touch those much, but those are linked at the bottom of the local show notes section here in the show notes. Cases rise by 750 here in the East Tennessee areas, new hotspots. Let's see, case counts for Tennessee in total is now totaling 36,000 and change as of June 23rd, including 542 deaths, 2,300 plus hospitalizations, and 24,000 recovered. Just want to make people aware this is becoming a developing, ongoing sort of narrative story again here in Tennessee. Be careful when you're out there, y'all. be careful is all I'm saying. Take precautions. Do the reasonable thing. Do the libertarian thing. Take care of yourself. Take care of someone else. Hey, here's the next story, though. I'm just going to be like as honest as possible here, Shine. Quick hard line, me speaking, nobody else, not on behalf of any organization, yada, yada. You heard me say it before. Dude, there's some nonsense going on in the Tennessee legislature, bro. And I'm just like, I guess it shouldn't be surprising to me, but I'll be completely frank, it kind of is surprising to me. I mean, I'm only saying that it's kind of surprising to me only because I just don't know why people take it that seriously, man. Like, goodness gracious, bro. It's local Tennessee politics. It's local Tennessee politics. Like, people are making $30,000 a year. It's not a big deal. Go up there, represent your people, do it well. You were sent there to do a specific job. Get it done, man. Get it done. I do not know where these elements of pride come from sometime. I know it's a weird way to introduce this, but I had this story right here from the Tennessee Star, written by an incredible individual, Laura Baggert. Check out a bunch of her stuff on Tennessee Star, by the way. They filed this resolution at the very end of the House meeting. Okay, here's the headline if you want to follow along. State House passes resolution to address adjourning with unfinished legislation. Now, this is not a massive update to the story. We all know that happened. The House came back in. They had a bunch of bills that passed committee. They were about to get through House floor vote. They did pass in the House floor vote. And they said, hey, Senate, what are y'all going to do about it? And the Senate said, nah, thanks, but no thanks. We're just going to worry about budget issues and see you next session type thing. Sessions in Tennessee, by the way, last 2 years. So this is the 111th. This is the end of the second year of the 111th session. Year 1, year 2 make up 111th. We're about to start 112th. When that happens, all these bills have to be rewritten, potentially with brand new people if people lose elections or don't come back in, you're following along. That's not necessarily a new part of the story. What is a new part of the story is this. So as a result of what I just explained, the Senate not going forward and the House wanting to go forward, Representative Van Hust filed House Resolution 343 on June 11th, addressing a more permanent solution to this particular situation we've been having. This is HR 343. It congratulates, this is so Van Hust. This is how he does stuff. He congratulates House of Representatives for being the people's chamber and for recognizing the need to amend the Tennessee Constitution as follows, quote, when a bill or resolution passes the House of the General Assembly, either or, then that House shall not adjourn until the other House has voted on the bill or resolution. The other House shall vote on the bill or resolution regardless of whether it lies in the chamber or in a committee of that House. The House considering the bill or resolution in a committee shall have at least 5 members eligible to cast a yes vote or a no vote in that committee, quorum, right? And the bill or resolution shall not fail to be voted upon based upon a procedural motion or lack of procedural motion. So this is essentially Van Hust signaling to the rest of the Senate, like, we're doing our jobs. Can y'all do your jobs? This part I kind of love, all right? This part I kind of like. It's a little bit of a jabbing. It's a little bit of a ribbing. It's a little bit of the House saying, like, come on, y'all. Seriously, if we stuck around at this point, seriously, if they stuck around for another 72 hours, we could have gotten some awesome legislation, some fantastic stuff. Some of the stuff that we've been letting y'all know about. Health care stuff, criminal justice reform stuff, education-related stuff. And I didn't really know the full extent of everything that was left on the table until I really went through some of this stuff. In light of his resolution, here we go, following the story. In light of his resolution, fellow House members brought a number of their important bills to the attention of Van Hust that either passed only in the House or were held in the House due to inaction by the Senate. This is where you go from a little bit of a fun little jabbing, ribbing that actually proves a very good point, qualified point, justified and reasonable to talk about, where we go from that aspect to like, oh my dude, we left a lot on the table, man. We left a lot on the table. Here's a list, by the way, of everything that was left on the table, either due to inaction of the Senate or something else. Teachers Discipline Act, establishing a disciplinary process for students who have been removed from the classroom by the teacher. You have another one that eliminates state-mandated testing for grades K to 2. You have another one that prohibits public higher education institutions from contracting or affiliating with a foreign nation. Man, that's a... Did y'all hear that one?
Yeah, that's worth stopping at for a second.
Right.
Wait, say that one more time for those in the back.
Yeah, this is HB. This is Daniel. This is Representative Daniel. This is why I'm telling y'all he's one of the biggest losses. I'm not gonna expound on it. It's a loss that we're losing, Daniel. HB 1839 prohibits public higher education institutions from contracting or affiliating with a foreign nation. passed the House by a vote of 80 to 10 to 2.
Let me add some context to that. There's over 2,000 active FBI investigations into China stealing proprietary information from institutions in the U.S. right now. So I don't know if we needed that necessarily because the feds are doing it, but that means the state government can investigate institutions. Also, right? That means you can use state resources to enforce state code. So I hope all our institutions have been washing their hands and wearing a mask and all those fun things. And I mean those things metaphorically. I hope they're squeaky clean for their sakes and for ours.
I'm telling you, right? For both. No, you're exactly right. Daniel just said, and by the way, that's by design. They take Daniel in Facebook, not Representative Daniel. Daniel in Facebook said that's by design. They take turns doing so it looks like they're trying, but never have to change anything. Here we're coming from. He goes on to say, all they do is send it to summer study if they did anything. That is, he's got a good point. I mean, a lot of the major pieces of change, they do just end up sending to summer study to let it die. But on occasions, they get stuff right. They pass stuff it does well. A lot of people don't know this, but in the state of Tennessee, as it pertains to civil asset forfeiture, officers cannot seize cash alone. Illegal to do so. It comes with a presumption of innocence, it's called, a rebuttable presumption. It's a nearly impossible thing to overcome. But hey, man, we have that here. That was one of those things that got summer studied for a little while. It eventually came through. Speaking of other stuff Daniel has done, HB 1946, this is an occupational licensing sort of reciprocity thing. It allows members of the U.S. Armed Forces and honorably discharged veterans who've received certified occupational training to receive equivalent credit towards occupational licensing here in Tennessee. Here's how that works. If you went to the military, you got trained in something, the state of Tennessee is going to say, we probably trust the military to train you as well, if not better, than whatever institution is going to do it here in Tennessee, especially a government institution. All right. If we're not going to privatize the entire thing, the best we could possibly do at a minimum is say that our military, armed forces are probably training you as well, if not better than what we would do here in Tennessee. So let's just let you get credit for both, man. That passed. Didn't do anything with it. HB 2007, also by Representative Daniel, authorizes the release of public records related to an audit or investigation by the Comptroller of the Treasury or other government audit staff used during the audit or investigation prior to the conclusion of the process. That's very interesting. We don't have time to unpack right now. Look, there's bill after bill after bill on here. All right. There's also a bunch of bills here that are held up by the House because of delays in the Senate. One of the points I want to make with this as we're moving into some of our national stories here. Look, let me pause on this one real quick too. HB 2454. It's by Dr. Terry. Representative, yes. Chairman, yes. But Dr. Terry, medical marijuana. This is a bill backed also by Dickerson. Senate, in the Senate. I'm telling y'all, man, that was a fantastic bill. The amount of research, I actually have that bill sitting right over here. The amount of research that went into this bill for medical marijuana, I mean, to say that these two individuals were passionate about this project to bring medical marijuana, and it stresses medical marijuana for very specified reasons, but y'all, those specified reasons are incredible. I mean, absolutely incredible for what this stuff could go to, what it could be used for, the amount of research they put into this. I mean, if anybody knows who I'm talking about, Senator Dickerson and Dr. Terry, these are extremely, but they're qualified conservative individuals. Very conservative individuals pushing a medical marijuana bill, man. Passed the House, couldn't do anything with the Senate. I'm just telling you, man, there's a lot of good stuff out there that we just didn't do anything with that we got a little bit better on. So this is yet one more time we're making a pitch, man. If y'all want to make a difference on some of this stuff, reach out to us. We'll let you know how to get involved. Now, that all here in the local level kind of sets the backdrop for what's going on in the national level. If you think it's bad at the local level, take that, ramp up the pride a little bit, turn the volume to 11, put national media attention on it, and now you have national politics. Why would anybody want to try and pass something that way? Trying to be good, buddy. Go ahead and pull up that first YouTube video under the national story. The police reform bills that were being considered in Congress. As trying to pull up this video, let me give you a quick update as to where we are with CJR efforts here in Tennessee. There may, and I hard stress may, be a special session coming in the next week or two. Probably not, but may. If that special session comes around, there may be a lot of stuff in the healthcare package that we were talking telemedicine, certificate of need reforms, There might be some type of, I don't know, tort liability restrictions or something like that, dealing with COVID-19 related stuff. There's a lot of stuff that could come from that special session. There was a bunch of stuff that was supposed to be in Governor Lee's criminal justice reform package. Incredible stuff, y'all. It wasn't Grand Slam stuff. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't shooting for the moon stuff. It wasn't bail reform. It wasn't sentencing reform, but it was awesome, awesome stuff that we had to stall on again because of the shutdown. Here's what they're doing with police reform at the national level. Is that video good to go, Sean? We'll go ahead and just play like the first minute or so of this. And this, I think, does a pretty decent job of dictating where we're at. Go ahead and play just the first part of that video.
This is a Fox News alert. It's all unfolding right now on Capitol Hill. Senate Democrats effectively blocking debate on Republicans' police reform bill. The move effectively stalling police reform in the Congress, even as the House now likely to approve its own police reform bill as soon as tomorrow. The top-ranking senators are butting heads over the issue. They've been doing so all day. Take a listen.
Now they don't want to take up the issue. They don't want to debate. They don't want amendments. They'll filibuster police reform from even reaching the floor of the Senate unless the majority gets the minority to rewrite the bill behind closed doors in advance.
Don't get on your sanctimonious horse, Leader McConnell. You have none of the civil rights community behind you. I think the politics here is that Leader McConnell wants to show he's doing something and get nothing done.
So earlier this morning.
Stop it there, Sean. I mean, I was just like, y'all follow me, right? Like, am I off, Sean? It's like, don't you throw your virtue signal at me, Mr. McConnell. I have all the virtue power behind me. Right? With my powers combined, I truly am Captain Planet. You have no power in this. My kung fu style. Dude,
Leader McConnell, I don't know if you know this or not, but you're only allowed to sit on the ground and put your head between your legs. You are not allowed to have an opinion on this issue. I don't know if you've gotten the memo or not, but you're fired, you know, that kind of thing on this issue. You're not allowed to speak on this issue. I wonder, F's in the chat, if anyone has ever told you that.
Dude, it's just like, it's too easy to see through now, right? Like, I don't know who left in the country is taking this seriously. And I think the national polls indicate the same. There's another national approval poll that came out this morning, and you know, we're talking teens number of approval rating. We're talking low 20s% number of approval rating for anybody in Congress. House, Senate, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I mean, everybody's seeing through this. To say it's a farce is an absolute understatement. Every single person is seen through all this nonsense right now. And look, it's part of the game that's being played, which is why nobody cares about this stuff right now. Part of the game that's being played is the grandstanding and the showmanship, and you do, I don't know, the signaling that goes on to like, we want everything, and the Republicans, well, we want nothing. Well, we think somehow we're going to meet in the middle or something like that. I don't know, man. I don't know. And the very odd thing about all this is another weird theme of the show today is that one of the themes of the show today is like localize the solutions as much as possible, because I'm telling you, the further you get, we've seen the problem that happens at the Tennessee legislature. We just went through this. We've seen that problem even in the Tennessee legislature. The further you get outside of our state, the more problematic it becomes, because the less touchable and accountable these individuals are, especially to their own constituents. As you get further and further away, it becomes more and more problematic, right? As I'm saying, localize these solutions as much as possible, and you still might have a problem. That's one of the things of today. The other theme of today, the rules that have been set up they're creating so many strange paradoxes, man. It's hard to keep up with. One of these paradoxes in particular is that this reform bill that they're going back and forth about is sponsored by Senator Tim Scott. Tim Scott is an African-American male. So by Democrats criticizing the bill that an African-American male is sponsoring, it's getting dangerously close to the paradox of like, I don't know, man, by your rules, you're not allowed to criticize that. By the rules of the game that you have set up, you are not allowed to criticize that, lest I be able to call you out, not even for hypocrisy, of the paradox that you have set up. Well, you know, I want to be able to critique it because it might be a bad bill, but I can't critique it because it's a bad bill because the person that's sponsoring. And now it's analysis, and I need to be anti-racist, but I'm not talking about it specifically because of the person's colors of their skin, which makes me racist in itself. Head explodes. To give you an example of what I'm talking about, we'll pull this video up here in a second. But let me give Tim Scott the spotlight here just a second. Shane, pull up that Facebook video, if you will, and start that at around minute 2. and we'll play it sort of to the end. I might pause along the way. We'll give some commentary or something. But Senator Scott, the title of the video here, I think it's The Blaze. I'm not sure. Yeah, it's The Blaze. But the title says that Tim Scott explodes. He doesn't explode. I don't think there's an instance of him exploding. He didn't really even drop the hammer. He just kind of like tells it like it is, which I think is somewhat refreshing. But starting in minute 2 here, Senator Scott kind of just lays out the entire thing and says a little bit of what I just said. Like, is anybody taking this seriously anymore? Or are either of us taking it seriously? Yeah, go ahead and play for minute 2 there.
To lead. And my friends on the other side just said no. Not no to the legislation. They just said no. And why am I saying that they didn't just say no to the legislation? It's because along the way, I sat down with many of them and said, what do you need? And Senator Schumer sent a letter telling, I believe it was Senator McConnell, there were 5 things in the legislation that needed to be improved. I said, let's give them the 5 amendments. I sat down with more senators, and they said, wait. There's not just 5, there's 20. I said, how about 20 amendments? And they walked out. You see, this process is not broken because of the legislation. This is a broken process beyond that one piece of legislation. It's one of the reasons why...
And we'll pick up right where we left off there. But I think what he said right there is vitally important. The process is broken. The process, possibly overall, but especially at the national level, is broken. This process, I believe now, specifically designed to do nothing more than at least start. And hear what I'm saying. To do nothing more than at least start by dividing us against one another. And then once you've been properly divided into whatever camp you're in, now all of a sudden you have to argue from that particular camp's viewpoint. It may not be logical. I think it's specifically designed to be illogical. But in so doing, we very rarely talk about the issue at hand. We talk about all these other weird sort of tangential things around the outside. Nobody's talking about police reform right now. We're talking about all the unrelated things. Well, he said he wanted that. He said he wanted 20 amendments. He said he wanted 5 amendments. When what's really going on is like Democrats don't want to give Trump yet another criminal justice reform win. The Republicans don't want to be seen as anti-police. And at the end of it, like, I don't think anything's going to happen. And frankly, when you boil it all down, I don't necessarily know how much any of this matters at the national level anyways. At the very end here, I'm going to let Tim Scott explain this himself, but stick around for at least another 2 minutes, because at the very end, Senator Scott, demonstrates perfectly the point that I'm making. Like, this national stuff, it doesn't necessarily matter. Y'all at the state level, with the policing power still left, y'all are the ones that have to figure this out. It's ultimately going to be up against you, to you. And frankly speaking, why are y'all waiting for us to do this for you? You realize every single one of these cities that had a problem previously, you all could have done this like yesterday. You could have done this years ago. When's the last time you had a Democrat elected, a Republican elected as the mayor of Atlanta? Was it like 18-something, 19-something? We're talking early 1900s, late 1800s. The last time we had a Republican elected mayor in the city of Atlanta. Bro, we got a couple 100 years worth of time that some of this stuff could have been changed if you want to make it a Democrat-Republican thing. It's not. It's not a national thing. I think the process from the top down is broken, in part because of how far away they are from the people that they're actually representing. Go ahead and play from where we left off, Sean.
Communities of color, young Americans of all colors are losing faith in the institutions of authority and power in this nation because we're playing small ball. We're playing for those in the insulated chambers. We're playing for presidential politics. That's small ball. Playing the big boys game is playing for the kids who can't represent themselves. And if you don't like what you see, change it. We offered them opportunities. At least 20 I offered. to change it. And their answer to me was, you can't offer us 20 amendments. I said, why not? They said, well, because Mitch McConnell won't give you 20 amendments. I spoke to Mitch McConnell. He says, you can have 20 amendments. I told them that. We went to a press conference yesterday, and we said an open process. They didn't want an open process. Let me just close with this. I don't know what it's going to take to wake up an entire nation about the importance of a duopoly and not a monopoly. Because look at your results. Look at the results you're getting. And by the way, when this bill is gone and next week we're on the DOD or something else, we'll forget about this. We'll move on. People will forget about it. And you know what's going to happen? Something bad. And we'll be right back here talking about what should have been done, what could have been done, why we must act now. I'm telling you, I had this conversation 5 years ago. I'm having this conversation right now. We could do something right now. You know, here's the truth. In Detroit, Atlanta, Minneapolis, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, all these cities could have banned chokeholds themselves. They could have increased the police reporting themselves. They could have more data information themselves. They could have de-escalation training themselves. They could have duty to intervene themselves. Minneapolis as well. All these communities have been run by Democrats for decades. Decades. What is the ROI for the poorest people in this nation? And I don't blame them. I blame an elite political class with billions of dollars to do whatever they want to do, and look at the results for the poorest, most vulnerable people in our nation. I'm willing to compete for their vote. Are you?
All right, so he makes a lot of good points there. He makes a lot of good points, several of which I just stole from him from that previous rant of talking about like cities could have done this well prior to this if they wanted to. They don't have to wait on national opportunity. They, frankly speaking, you don't have to scapegoat your national representatives either. Or maybe you should, because they got to do something for a living. Aside from just raise more funds, they have to do something for a living. But I think, oddly enough, the most interesting thing that I picked up on from that entire thing is something that I hope my libertarian friends are just screaming at the screen right now. Did anyone else hear when he said, like, we need to focus on the importance of a duopoly lest we fall into a monopoly? That hit me hard, because I'm pretty sure my libertarian friends have been screaming that same thing for decades, saying like, bro, it's just a left and right wing. Don't pretend they're parties. It's of the same bird. It's the same deal. We already have a monopoly. And this guy's saying like, it's so bad now that we have just a single party, alleged, controlling the entirety of what they think is correct or incorrect, or what's moral high ground or what's not moral high ground, or one person or one party, rather, is the only one that has an opportunity to speak on anything qualified as to how we should change police reform or something. That is now becoming a monopoly on a particular issue, which is even worse than a duopoly. And I think some libertarians think it's all the same anyways. You're just saying it a little bit different, man. But in a societal sense, dude, he's hitting a lot of good stuff here, man. He's basically saying, like, what does happen when a single worldview or a single ideology takes carte blanche control of that issue? You get a lot of weird paradoxical stuff, man. Sean, just because it flows better at this point, man, jump past that stuff here in the show notes, in the national show notes. It says, please do yourself a favor, Joe Rogan. Jump past the chopped CHAZ stuff. I'm going to get to that here at the end of the show. Jump past the NASCAR story. See where that red headline says, here's the definition of a paradox, or rather, here's what a white liberal racist looks like?
Yeah, I see that.
Pull up that Twitter video real quick. And I'm pretty sure there's not foul language in this. I'm like 98% sure. I've listened to it a couple times. I think a little bit in an apolitical sense. in an apolitical sense, this is a little bit of what Senator Scott was talking about. When a single worldview, a single stance, a single vantage point, it doesn't matter, a single political, when one thing takes over how to address a problem, dude, like, this is a walking paradox, what you're about to watch. This is the definition of a paradox. I mean, audibly unfolding in front of your eyes right now. Unfolding audibly in front of your eyes. Goodness, that's a terrible sentence. In front of your ears.
Grant, it makes sense when you hear it, but not when you think about it. So, like, I get where you're coming from.
Just play that video real quick. You see what I'm talking about.
When you take off your uniform, are you afraid of police?
I have a question for you. You're white and you're telling this to 2 black police officers.
Yeah.
Do you see the problem with that a little bit?
No, I don't, because you know what? Just because I'm white and I haven't experienced racism myself doesn't mean I can't fight for justice. They're a part of the system. They're a part of the problem. Just because they're black doesn't mean they're not a part of the problem.
Gotcha.
I'm allowed to say this to whoever. Because I'm white, racism is a white person's problem.
Yep.
Racism is my problem. I need to fix it. That's why I'm here talking to all of them. Black, white, fucking brown, purple. I don't when you take off your...
Missed that word. But you hear what I'm saying? You hear what I'm saying there, man?
It's not even hypocrisy anymore. It's like I just feel bad, you know, like the cognitive dissonance has to make them take 6 or 7 Advil every night, you know? I mean, like how do you live by telling a bunch? I don't even want to try to describe it, because by describing it, I won't describe it. You know what I mean? But it's like you saw it. That doesn't make any sense. And that's, I don't know what else to say about that, Grant. Like, that's weird.
It's like you saw it happen in a 25, 30-second clip, whatever it was, man, where she works herself. This is what's so weird. She logically works herself into a white knight scenario. She logically works herself into a messiah complex, where now because she is white, she must save everybody, including black and brown people, from their own racism, which is a paradox. And it's literally one of those scenes from a movie where you tell, you know, the robot some logical conundrum or some paradox that doesn't make sense, does not compute, and the head explodes. Starts off by saying, like, you know, like when she starts off, for like the first 10 seconds, someone could probably follow along and saying, like, hang on, if she were to have started with, this is not a racial problem, this is a police power problem, an overreaching power state problem, whatever, an authoritarian state problem. Doesn't matter the race of the person that's standing in front of me. It matters the uniform that they're wearing, and that the legislation behind that uniform allows them to have too much power and enact that power upon me, taking away my civil liberties. That's an argument that people can follow. But then she immediately follows into this. Well, don't you have a problem with the black and brown? And then it's like, well, you know, I kind of, well, no, yes, I do, because racism is a problem. And as a white person, I need to come out here and call out racism for the problem that it is, even though they're black and brown people standing in front of me, which means that black and brown people are racist, but they can't be racist because I've been told they're not racist, but as a white person, I'm supposed to save them from it. And now you got this problem, man, where everybody's working themselves into becoming racist themselves. That is the paradox. That's what we're seeing unfold in front of our faces, man. And honestly, dude, like I'm really starting to wonder, as we go back to this CHAZ Chop story, Sean, I'm really starting to wonder if that's not the grand design anyways. Like, I don't know, bro. Tell me another worldview that's treated minorities worse than communism, and I couldn't find it. Hey, pull up that Joe Rogan interview with Brett Weinstein. Just the first few minutes of this does a decent breakdown of like a little bit of what's going on right now. Because again, where I'm coming from is I don't think people are aware of how racist they are sounding when some of this stuff goes on. I mean, let me just break it down this way without trying to be complex about it. Everyone follows me when I say that, right? Of how insanely racist it is for a white liberal woman to be screaming in a black police officer's face that black person is racist and they need to save the black person from their racism. I mean, we're following that at least, right? But this is how much this whole worldview has crept in right now. Yeah, just play from the very beginning, man. Just the first couple minutes, there's a lot of good little truth nuggets there that drop out. But go ahead and play.
If anybody sounded the alarm that all this madness was going to come to fruition in the real world, it's you, sir. You often maligned and mocked
Yep.
People didn't think it was a big deal. They think you're much ado about nothing. You're making a big deal about some kids that are voicing their opinions on things. But what you recognized early on was that there was an authoritarian aspect of it, a forced compliance aspect of it that's very dangerous.
Yeah, it's all about force. And, I've started to get calls in the last week or two. The people who mocked me and others, including you, for making too much of what appeared to be college kids going wild on college campuses, some of them have started to call and say, I got it wrong. What do we do now? And actually, I appreciate those calls and those contacts, because really that is the question.
Yeah, what do we do now to pull it back?
Yeah.
How do you get the genie back in the bottle? Or as Douglas Murray says, how do you put the brakes on this thing?
How do you put the brakes on this thing, indeed? Well, I have to tell you, I'm not optimistic. I think that this is actually the people who are catching up to the fact that Evergreen has now spilled over into the world have not caught up to the fact that this is unstoppable at this point with the current configuration. The absence of leadership is going to prevent us from doing what we should do. And that means that the next set of predictions are far...
You can pause that there. I'm telling I think we got cut off halfway through there, man. But what he just ended right there with, though, the absence of leadership. Brett Weinstein is the guy from Evergreen College that called all this stuff. I mean, what was that, 5-6 years ago? Maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Doesn't matter. It was just a little while ago where he called all of this. He said, we got a problem at Evergreen College. These kids are now, I'm telling you, they're about to graduate. It's happening at every single other major university, public or otherwise, across the United States. This stuff is going to come. And by this stuff, he's talking about, he's talking Marxism. That's what he's talking about. That's exactly what he's talking about. He's saying the rest of this stuff is going to infect the rest of society. And whatever you're seeing here, if you think it's wild, it's about to be more wild in your faces coming forward. He called this stuff, and he was dead on right. And what he said a second ago was one of the major problems why he doesn't see this stuff stopping is because a lack of leadership. Dude, that is it's a bunch of rudderless ships out there. It's a bunch of rudderless ships. That's one of the major, we were talking over the last couple of days here about one of the major distinctions between, I don't know, say the civil rights movement and a little bit of the stuff that's going on today. It's you cannot, as far as an organizational stance, a structure itself, you can't point to who the leaders are in this movement. I mean, even in Christianity, bro, I can't point to a single or even a few individuals and say, that's the guy who's got his finger on the pulse. That's the guy who's leading the charge. That's the guy who's making sense of all this stuff. That's the guy who we need to follow. That's the guy who's saying the right stuff. Everywhere. Nobody has a leader that's actually stepping up and trying to do anything about this. And the people that are in leadership positions right now are, I don't even know. I don't know the word for it, buddy. I honestly don't know. That ineffective is not strong enough. I mean...
A word that I've been throwing around for the past few years is feckless.
Yes. Yeah, it's a great one. Yeah,
ineffective is good. Ineffective is good. But ineffective also implies that there's not a crisis of some kind. They're just not... They're teetering around the edges bad. They're I don't know. You go past ineffective to the point of getting rid of things that are effective or not defending things that are effective. You know what I mean? Wimpy. Wimpy's a good word. I don't know. I've said a long time, the Western civilization hasn't had elites this bad since the Vikings invaded. 1,200 years ago. You know what I mean?
Eric said in Facebook just a second ago that if the system is this broken, it's unsustainable. If it's unsustainable, it will eventually fall apart. If we are at this point now, with everything the way that it is, the system brought us this far and nothing is really changing. How much longer until we reach an extinction level of the entire system? I don't think he's saying the human species. I think it's just an extinction level of the system, the way that it currently operates. This concerns me a bit. And when I hear this, looks like just another attempt to one-up Trump or prevent him from doing something like him or not. He says, and this lady in this video is a clear sign that we're at the edge, the video we just played before. He finished by saying it's beyond racist. It's either a paid actor, which I'm not above believing, or is a serious mental illness. I mean, that's how bad it's gotten, right? That's how bad it's gotten. Eric's saying it's so absurd. It's so ridiculous It's so illogical that I don't even believe that a human being is capable of some of this stuff sometimes, unless they're being paid to do so or they have some kind of mental illness going on. And I did look at this. I'm an equal opportunity offender here, okay? We have this on the right and the left. This is on the right and the left, man. This is like whatever this mental illness is that's infecting a lot of people. It does not discriminate. I'll tell you that much. Frankly speaking, it's just a little bit easier to pick up on the left from time to time. But I mean, that's neither here nor there. It's there on the right as well. And what Eric is saying is it's the same thing. When we reported on a little while ago, by we I mean real news, we were covering the Justice Kavanaugh, now Justice Kavanaugh, then nominee Kavanaugh, and the day that he was confirmed. The day that he was confirmed, man, you had people that were trying to rip down the 13-ton doors. These doors are like 20 feet tall, man. Trying to rip down the 13-ton doors the outside of the Supreme Court. Like, that is just lunacy. And it's so absurd that I believe, at the time when I was originally reporting that, I immediately went to exactly where Eric said, and like, there's no way that's real. I mean, clearly it's real because I'm watching it, but nobody's actually doing that because they chose to do that. Someone has to be paying them to do that. They have to. They have to be paying someone to act that outrageous. It's either that or there's something else mentally going on, because there's no way a rational human being. I mean, goodness gracious, bro. What's the quote that we were reading from the French philosopher the other day, saying that we don't even require, like, civilized society doesn't even require strong rationality, competent rationality. Just be willing to reason. You don't even have to be good at it, man. Just like make an attempt. And what Brett Weinstein just finished off with, saying like our leaders are absolutely failing, is this leading to the final story of the show today. What I entitled the CHAZ is chopped, because I refuse to call this stuff the thing, the chop or whatever. I don't care, man. They're CHAZ to me. That's what you picked to begin with. I'm not changing it because you asked me to.
They're dorks to me. They're commies to me. They're Marxists to me. They're revolutionaries to me.
Right. The commies. Here's the headline. And I found this headline only from a local affiliate because it's the first one that reported it, and the other national stories are not picking it up on it as well. Community leaders now telling the commies, protesters, to go home after the fourth shooting in 3 days. This is what Brett Weinstein was talking about, man. And he's not talking about the individuals necessarily. He's talking about those that are in leadership positions that are complicit with this, that are either allowing this to happen or actually even in supporting most of this going on. Early Tuesday morning, a fourth person was shot near the CHAZ. It was basically in there. The new violence comes after a 19-year-old was shot and killed Saturday. This last Saturday. Another man was shot Saturday in the hospital, is in satisfactory condition. A 17-year-old was shot Sunday night, is out of the hospital. And the man shot Tuesday morning is in satisfactory condition. 4 people in, I don't know, the week span time, something like that. In 3 days. Sorry, 4 people in 3 days. Sorry. Community leaders and neighbors are telling protesters to go home before someone else gets hurt. Hey, man. Hey, but our leadership is just a summer of love, y'all. Just a summer of love. Everybody loving. You know, some people might get shot here and there, but it's been just love, man. This is what Brett Weinstein's talking about. Like, people can't step up and call this stuff seriously for what it is. And I don't even care who I'm offending at this point. I don't even know. Is there even, is anyone even to qualify that anymore? Is there any way that you could even offend anybody by saying communism is terrible?
No.
Good.
Not unless they're terrible. I make judgments about people's character when they say that they're sympathetic to communism, and I think that's totally reasonable.
I think it's absolutely reasonable, bro.
Because either they're into mass death or they're ignorant. So, you know, I make judgments about people's character when they are sympathetic to communism, because it's either they're ignorant or evil.
Yes, right. Exactly.
And if they're ignorant, they're on their way to becoming evil. You know, so that's what it is.
You know, my stance on this, this is my personal stance. I'm not speaking on behalf of anybody else here, but my personal stance is I don't believe anybody's ever beyond saving. Primarily because what you just said, Sean. A lot of these people could just be naive. They could be ignorant. They don't know history, man. Like, they're brand new to politics. They're waking up. They're supercharged. Like, they're in the midst of things. Context is very, very important here. Maybe they have no clue what's been going on ever other than just the past 4 or 5 to 6 months alone. Does not explain it or justify that they're coming to that situation first. It's probably just the first thing they were exposed to. These people are not beyond saving. But you absolutely have to make judgments when someone that they're going to see is trying to defend something like this or complicit in something like this, or God forbid, the leadership, man. And look how they have to walk this back. This is Kelly Forsythe. She was an individual that was actually at this comedy wherever. It says gunfire woke him up on Tuesday as commotion unfolded feet away from his apartment. He said, I went to check the ground and there was a lot of things crushed, and there was basically 3 giant piles of really thick blood. When there's blood on the streets, there needs to be some respect. That's the problem here. We've got blood on our streets, and now it's happening every day, and it's not stopping, and I don't see it stopping. Tuesday night was the 15th night of this CHAZ area. And some protesters were not budging even after the mayor of Seattle asked for people to start clearing out, sort of. This is Mayor Durkin is asking community leaders to spread the message to voluntarily leave the area instead of having police intervention. And it's like, I mean, you created this bed, like you created this scenario. You set this situation up. In some small sense, you kind of have to deal with the ramifications now. And those ramifications, I personally believe, and Sean, I think, agrees with me, this is going to be far more than just what we're currently looking at. Yes, and I am talking like civil liability. I am talking criminal liability. I am talking multiple lawsuits. Shine actually brought this point up before the show this morning. Multiple lawsuits coming against the city. And we're not just talking property destruction, man. We're not just talking destroying businesses. We're talking, I mean, dude, I don't know.
Failure on a duty that caused harm. That's going to be the basis for all the lawsuits. I mean, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just a guy with a friend who went to law school. But I really believe that there were duties, like statute-bound duties that were not followed that did cause harm. And then that's just the civil liability and criminal liability. I think there will be criminal liability, by the way, for some from the state of Oregon for actual elected officials in Seattle. I think that will also eventually happen. Dude, but there's also a company that managed like $1.58 billion in investment money is moving to Phoenix from Seattle.
Yeah, there you go.
And they're encouraging. Well, and I didn't mean to steal your thunder, Grant. I'm sorry. I didn't know you were going to talk about that.
I was going to bring it up because you said it first. Like, that's one of the best points you made. Once these people get paid out, they're not staying there.
They're not.
That's one of the best points you made.
Yeah, and this investment firm that's moving to Phoenix is encouraging the other investment firms that are in Seattle to leave. And they're not even just talking about the CHOP and the CHAZ or whatever. They're saying Seattle is not a place where you can pick the kind of quality of life you want. They said you either get to live in a small apartment that costs $1 million or you have to live 100 miles away from Seattle. You know, they said in Phoenix, people can like raise a family if they want. That was what they said. And I think it has something to do with the CHOP. It's like, you know, that little virtue signal there. They said Phoenix is a place where you can raise a family, implying in Seattle the current conditions are not conducive to that. Why would someone right now want to move their small children and their money to a place where the government doesn't protect personal property or people? And those will be long-ranging consequences for the city of Seattle because there's so many images, right, Grant? And these images and these stories will get burned into people. And it's not like necessarily like people like Grant and I, people watching this show. This isn't for you. This is for people who have to make decisions about millions of dollars, billions of dollars. They're not going to send any capital or people to a place that doesn't protect capital or people. And I'm not like saying those in order of priority. Obviously, people would come first. But why would you as a company want to move your people there? Why would you ask any of your people to move there after you've seen all this? And who knows what's going to happen to Seattle over the next 30 years because of this. This will be something that they'll be dealing with for decades. I think.
Dude, 100%. Eric said in Facebook too, 100% Marxist. This has been the play. Oh man, hang on. He said this has been the play every communist takeover in history, either by class, race, or religion, doesn't matter. Trotsky, Alinsky set it out step by step, and we're seeing it now. And he goes on to say in all caps here, they stole property by threat and use of violence. He says, I'm yelling now, ridiculous. That's exactly, and then links to a what is this here? Hang on, let me pull this up. Links to the Communist Revolution in America, more deadly than war. Goodness gracious. Yelling at the screen saying they stole property by threat and use of violence. And I'm not going to lie here, y'all. Like, this is why focusing on these stories has been a little bit strange for me to see. What's the best way to say this? I'm starting to see this political spectrum as less and less linear and a little bit more cyclical. So I'm starting to see political spectrum less and less like you get more and more, what is that, left on y'all's screen, more and more right over here. I'm starting to see it a little bit more like left, right, and eventually they just converge on top of each other. Because I'm starting to see a lot of folks that are like, I'm okay with CHAZ stuff. It's not that bad, man. It's like, all right, dude. Maybe if you go super far right, it eventually falls back on top of super far left. Like maybe that's just how it happens organically. I don't know. But that's what's been so odd for me about this stuff. They're not hiding who they are. None of this is hidden. It is on poster boards. It is spray painted on walls. It is literally saturated with it, dripping. Every single speck of this drips with Marxism.
Well,
nobody's hiding that.
But let's talk about this though for a little bit, because I think the particular reaction to the CHAZ thing is kind of a Rosetta Stone to the general reaction to the whole thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me give you a little anecdote, and then I'll explain what I'm talking about here. I was watching Max Kaiser. I don't know if anybody has ever watched Max Kaiser. He's a financial reporter. He's a financial talking person. He's been on RT for a while, but he was on BBC way back in the day. And it's like, I was scrolling through YouTube. I'm like, I'll listen to Max Kaiser. For 5 minutes, he was putting all the things he hates about the current system into what's happening. He wasn't talking about Black Lives Matter. He wasn't talking about police reform. He said it was the paper revolution. And he said it had to do with overprinting of money. I think everyone is having a Rorschach test with all this. And the reason anybody would be for it is because what they're seeing, they're looking at it and from their own point of view. Like Max Kaiser, this is a great example. He's a financial guy. He doesn't like the central banking system. He doesn't like the Federal Reserve System. He doesn't like printing money. So when he sees all this, he says, this is because of the stuff I don't like. This isn't because of the stuff they say it's for. I know what the real story is. I know what they're really mad about. That's what Max Kaiser did. And I think there are a lot of people on the left. Rorschach test. The stuff I'm really mad about, that's why these people are doing it. Therefore, I support them. People on the right. People are saying that's why they're doing it. Like, I don't know. Pick your reason. Pick your poison. Pick the thing that scratches at the back of your mind and says, this is the problem with our society. People are I think a lot of good, well-meaning people are looking at problems they think are in society and then pushing that on the mob and saying that's why the mob is, because of the stuff I don't like. And I'm not even necessarily saying you're wrong, but I will say this. You would do yourself a service to look at what the people who are organizing these things are actually saying.
Yeah.
But at the moment, like maybe today, this may change next week, I'm a little bit forgiving of the people who are looking at it because we're not able to get feedback from our friends because we're told to stay at home. We're not allowed to have face-to-face conversations. So it's just our minds with our little perspective because we only have 2 eyes and 1 brain. And I think a lot of people, and I think even the people who don't like to protest, are putting negative things into the mob that have nothing to do with what they're saying they want or don't want. I think a lot of people are Rorschach testing this whole thing. And I don't know if you're familiar with that. That's where someone holds up an ink blot and you tell them what you see. And I was blown away when I only watched the first 5 minutes, but his little round table was fully convinced this wasn't about racism or police brutality. It was about what they have always said the problem is. And I think some Republicans, Democrats, and Libertarians, and everybody on all spectrums are doing the same thing. They think there's been problems in society, and they're assuming this mob fights for them. But you would do yourself a service. I'll say, I know I'm repeating myself. I come from advertising, so that's why I do that. You would do yourself a service to read what these people say they want and stop putting, and this goes for me, this goes for Grant, this goes for everybody. Don't put your assumptions into it. There's plenty there for you to either like or dislike. Go find it. Go read it.
That's super interesting, man. I mean, this stuff is so divisive that I think that is what's happening. And any great philosopher will tell you, or any psychologist will say that, just by the mere happenstance of being a human, we only view life through our own particular lens. In some sense, that is just what consciousness is, right? The awareness that you are who you are type thing forces you to see everything through your particular perspective. And it's not just far easier. It's way more, it's far more comfortable as well to think that there's not a communist situation going on in Seattle. It's just people fighting for a cause that I believe in. There's not a neo-inward thing being said. It's a neo-German associated thing going on in America. They're just fighting for some particular cause or something. But you're justifying that delusion the further you go into it. And Eric says, I think this stuff is becoming so divisive. He actually says that there's the real story is possibly a spiritual battle. It's another conversation, he says, but it's just manifested into what we see now. He actually says, Google the A-word witches. It's not just far. It's a real thing as well, man. I'm telling you. And I want to end on this story, man, just to put a sort of exclamation point on what Shine said, and then I'll carry us out with some good news here too. But Shine, jump past the thing that we covered last time we were here, the Zero Hedge article. I just wanted to put it in the show notes one more time, talking about the UN declaring support for A-word now. I say A-word, man, because I don't know what's happening with the censored stuff that we're on YouTube. If anybody, Facebook, sorry. Anybody wants to know what's going on, by the way, I posted a meme on the Facebook page and we got shut down for a week. So if you haven't seen anything from us for a little while, that's what's been going on. The meme was not offensive. I just used a particular word in the meme that starts with a G and goes pew, pew. Apparently that's enough to get you shut down. But jump past that story about UN supporting the A-word and go down to the Daily Show Trevor Noah thing. I think a little bit of what Sean's talking about actually goes in, lends some credence to the idea of how fast this stuff is happening. So Trevor Noah is a champion of the left. I mean, I'll say this a couple times during this next rant I'm going to go on, but he's from South Africa, recently from South Africa. You'll understand why that's important. Everybody understands why that's important. This article we're looking at right now from Daily Beast is in disagreement with Trevor Noah, but Trevor Noah is still the one that's leading the charge in this. And you start to see a little bit of the development of how this stuff just sort of devolved and became so regressive in such a quick period of time. 2017, September 1st, 2017, we have Trevor Noah coming out here and making a statement saying that he's blasting A-word, labeling them as vegan ISIS. Very funny. True. True and funny at the same time. Great satire. Great political commentary. But Daily Beast, even 3 years ago, was like, you're wrong, Trevor Noah. They're fighting for the right thing. You don't even know what they're doing. Trevor Noah knows what's going on with this stuff. He at least did back then. He just came from South Africa. It's not to imply that there's that situation going on in South Africa, but the guy knows what he's talking about when it comes to divisive elements. Go a little bit down in that story right above the hyperlink for the video. I don't want to play the entire video at 6 minutes long. All the important part is right there above it where it says Noah opened his spiel with a clip of a supposed Antifa member, already having problems with the verbiage. You know what I'm saying? A supposed Antifa member. Dude, really? The clip? Come on. Even in 2017, Daily Beast was spinning this web, spooling out this narrative of like, well, there's not really anything called Antifa. It's just an individual that so happens to be blessed and dressed in head to toe black and covering his face. Yeah, he might have a stick with him or a baton. He may be wearing a helmet. I don't know. Maybe he's there looking for violence. It doesn't necessarily matter. But he's not necessarily directly associated with anything that you want to label as this. So he opens his spiel with breaking a story of the symbolic act, breaking a window as a symbolic act. And this is Trevor Noah's quote saying, seriously, though, breaking a window as a symbolic act? You might think it has some deep statement, but most people see that and think, great. Now I've got to walk to a whole block upwards to the next Starbucks. Some people laugh after he says that. He says, like that's supposed to convince anybody? What are you trying to do? It definitely doesn't convince the Starbucks guy, which is everyone in Seattle. It definitely doesn't convince the Starbucks guy, the person who's going to be the store cleaning up the glass. Like, yeah, they made a good point about fascism. I understand what they mean. Oh, I get it now. Trevor Noah's delivery is much better than mine just was. But basically what he's saying is like, oh, yeah, I get it now. Messing up and mashing this window in, and I have to sweep up this glass. And he's, oh, fascism. I understand now. He continues going on by saying that the A-word members who believe that smashing this S-word is all they should do. Others want to expose the neo-other words, and part of the A-words, you can't even read this stuff, is only about video games.
Can I just throw in here that, like, we're not making a joke when Grant is not saying words?
I'm not making a joke.
Like someone just Charmed Bubble just followed us on Mixer, and I think he's English because he said, "Hey, mum." But I don't know if he's English or not. That may be me racially stereotyping him or something. But like, if you're in another country, we're not making jokes. We're not being over the top. We're not like overemphasizing a point. When we say certain words in the United States, our speech goes away. It doesn't matter the context. So just so you know. The people that you've always held up in these other places that are supposed to be more free, like the United States, it's not that way here anymore.
No, I know.
But anyway, I didn't mean to mess up the point. Yeah. Hey, let's break some windows, and that'll make people think like us. Let's hit them in the face. That'll make them be like us. That'll convince them that we're right. That's crazy.
And again, this article, September 1st, 2017, you're starting to see this slow roll out where, look, Trevor Noah gets it right now. He gets it right. He's basically saying, like, none of this stuff is going to convince anybody. You guys are using fascist tactics to stamp out alleged fascism. You guys are the fascists. What are you talking about? This is not anything classical liberalism has ever stood for. Open-mindedness, accepting, being tolerant, letting individuality reign supreme, having your own thoughts, not being a monolith. None of what this stuff has ever spoken to anything that the left or classical liberalism would ever like to identify with or be known for. Yet within just 3 short years, man, and it started happening now in this Daily Beast article. I can't take credit for this. Someone did an awesome job putting in one of the threads of the Twitter thing that I follow saying exactly like this. This is when it started to unfold, blah, blah, blah. This is not the exact point in time, but this is at least decent evidence of it. You have the Daily Beast, who at the time was even moving further left than Trevor Noah, man. And now, unfortunately, I think a lot of those folks, Trevor Noah included, has been forced to catch up. But I want to end the show with this, man. We're a little bit over. Sean, go down to the very bottom of the show. I mean, the show notes. Go all the way down to the good news section. And this guy, Bobby Green, he's a UFC mixed martial artist. Bobby Green speaking passionately about his father and his beliefs. Now, this is super hokey, and it's a super hokey way to end the show. But I'm going to play this video here in a second. And I just want, like, as much as Sean and I can't say certain words on Facebook, and yes, it is true, okay? There's a meme that we posted that said a G word in it. The basic comparison was what I've always said on this program. If you're calling to fully defund the police and you do not like this Second Amendment, you are inevitably creating a power vacuum which will be problematic. That was the pitch of the meme. It was a guy who was a leftist that was, wiping the forehead type thing, and he was trying to choose between, should I defund the police or should only police officers have G words? Pew, pew, G words. And we got flagged, and we got a message from Facebook that basically said, like, you're inciting a call to violence or something, as opposed by that meme itself. It's like, dude, for real? Really? Bro, seriously? And then immediately when I hear that, man, I think back about the protest that just happened in Hong Kong and them flying American flags, bro, and them walking to the tune of thousands and thousands of people on the street with American flags draped over their shoulders and just garbed out in American flags, chanting like, this is what we want to believe in. This is what we idealize. What Americans have now is what we're fighting for. And I'm thinking, bro, if you only knew, man, that is gutting. God, that is gutting, right? How much have we taken for granted that we have right now that we won't even fight for the stuff that Hong Kong is literally willing to lay down their lives for? Even just a taste of it, man. Even just a taste of it. I say all that just to say, even though all that stuff is getting shut down, you can't take away personal interaction. You can't take away personal stories. You can't take away anecdote. You can't take away building up enough evidence to see that these localized solutions become solution-oriented and thinking positively about this stuff. Doesn't matter, man. As much as Facebook, YouTube stuff this tries, in a discipleship way, if we grow into each other and out of each other, if we start to infect each other with positivity as opposed to that virus infecting back the other way, stuff like this will continue to happen. Super hokey way to end the show, but I promise you, man, this type of message delivers exactly what needs to be heard right now. Go ahead and play that video if you got it up, Sean. That
Dad, come
Bobby
here.
video.
Dad, come here.
I was going to bring...
So we've been fighting right now in this time in our country. We're doing this whole Black Lives Matter. Everyone's fighting, everyone's looting. This is my father. I was born in foster care. I didn't have a mother or a father. They gave me away. My father wasn't fit to be my father. This is my dad here, Jacob Benny. He's been there since the beginning. He's done everything. He laid his life down for me, and I lay his life down for him. I don't judge any man on the color of their skin, but the content of their character. We're here. We love. It doesn't matter what color it is. It's all about love. You can't beat hate with hate. You beat hate with love. So Everyone out there, please stop fighting. Please come together. We can't beat it that way. With love.
Look, as I end the show here, I don't know if y'all are feeling the same thing as I am, but when I hear stuff like that, it becomes palpable for me. That simple message, videos like that, stories like that, are so much more powerful than anything else we covered in the show today. Any of these trials or struggles or turmoil or the stuff that the spats that are going back and forth in the Tennessee legislature, us inability to pass legislation at a national level, or Facebook shutting stuff down or not shutting enough stuff down, and commies uprising and you could have 1,000, 10,000 stories of hate and despair, and it wouldn't get close to anywhere near what it makes you feel in a hokey little story like that. And as long as that notion remains true, dude, there's always hope. There's always positivity. There's always a chance of people being saved. There's always a chance of changing minds. My name is Mr. Henry. That's been the show for today. David Sean Thompson signing off for today. I'll be back tomorrow, and then tomorrow's Friday. Oh no, I'll talk to Sean. We might do something special over the weekend, or we'll see. We'll see you soon though. Love all y'all. Peace.